Hello, everybody. My name is Chastity, aka the Luminary Luna Beams,
And I'm Emily, the fine art medium.
and we're two mediums that specialize in the paranormal. Our purpose is to shed light on what goes bump in the night. That's why we call this YouTube channel podcast.
That's at midnight.
Lamp.
Bing, 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 bing.
Ba-ding, ding, dong, ding. Okay, guys, it's a little different today. We are doing a rewind episode. And there's a couple reasons we're doing a rewind episode on spiritual protection. So, first and foremost, we have more experience now with helping people with their hauntings and just more experience in general, field experience, non-field experience with clients, and we keep running into people, thousands of people that are still having issues, and we want to try to get this information far and wide and really, send it to people. And the reason you're not seeing us today is because we're too busy bees. We have a lot of stuff going on and figured, hey, we've already covered a lot of this, so we're going to do a little bit of a rewind, but we are going to give you guys some new content. It just worked out better to do an audio podcast today, considering times it's 12 o'clock at night. We've had to make some last minute arrangements. So, guys, please stay tuned and listen. It is going to be a little bit of fresh content, a little bit of old content, but it's been over a year since we've talked about this. And we just kind of want to, revisit, talk about some previous experience with clients and kind of what we've learned and some patterns we've noticed, and what it actually takes to get spiritually sound. Like, what does it take to get into a spiritually sound place? And then before we move into the rewind part of episode 23, season one, which is the first episode, an initiation of the realm of spiritual things, spiritual protection, aka we want to kind of give you an explanation of the role that tools have with spiritual protection. And then you're going to notice about an hour of our previous episode. A lot
Mhm.
of people that watch us haven't heard the first, season because it's way far down there. You're on YouTube because you want to see faces. We get it. Okay. So, but today this is going to have to do. But we really hope you stay around and listen. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing today.
Mhm. And if I get fancy, I'll have some nice images for y'all to look at.
Fancy schmancy.
Mhm.
All right, guys. So I guess we need to just go ahead and dive right in as to why. I mean, I personally was sitting here while we're revisiting this. I've done kind of said it. Look, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are still looking for help. And we need to identify what that type of help actually looks like. And there's a multitude of ways to go about helping somebody that's having spiritual paranormal issues. And it's really bad because there's a lot of information out there, but it's, can you trust the information? People generally, when they're in these situations, we need to talk about the fear
Mhm.
big time. Fear is one of the biggest things that hold people back from getting help. Also, I would say they get accustomed to having these paranormal experiences, yet they want them gone, but it's like patterns. It's like family systems almost.
Yeah.
They get accustomed to having this stuff around. And also too, I've noticed there's a lack of belief in things. Like, it tears you down as an individual.
Mhm.
So people struggle with a lack of belief that something or somebody or them themselves actually have the power to do anything about it.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we want to talk about today.
I also want to point out too, like I notice sometimes I have clients that are afraid of retaliation, whether that is from the entity or spirit or from family members because they don't believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very true. Very, very true. I guess we first can start with fear because I've noticed, so we're going to kind of tie in. That's the reason why we're revisiting this. And now we're going to go in and not specifically identify any clients or anything like that. We're just going to generally give you an overview of our experience amongst several clients, not all clients, but just several experiences and what we've learned. And we've talked about this before, but fear plays a big role. When you're already in a place of fear and you've been experiencing these things, you feel like it may never end. Your vibration is already super low, potentially, especially if paranormal activity and you need spiritual protection and you're having something bothering you. Your vibration's already low, and generally, as we say, your vibration attracts other vibrations that are similar. So, I mean, when you have a certain particular vibration and you're, already unhappy, you're going to continue to attract lower vibrational people, things, entities, and all that kind of stuff. So, why is it important that when you're trying to heal and get over and get rid of paranormal experiences, what do you have to do?
Gotta get rid of the fear.
Yep, and raise your vibration.
Mhm.
It's not always trauma that causes it, particularly directly. This stuff can happen over years. It's not always, an individual's fault for having things come around. We're just not taught. We're not taught these things. We don't know a lot of the things unless you grew up with a family that practiced certain belief systems or was into the occult. You have no idea really what to do, where to turn to, and you literally, as humans, we self preserve. So we tend to get stagnant and we stay in a certain place inside, like with our emotions. And we have to let go of the fear and you have to work on any underlying traumas. Sometimes we don't even know what those traumas are.
Mhm. Yeah. I would say too, like, fear is a basic human instinct. It is ingrained in us in order to survive, and trying to work around that. A lot of the fear is due to the unknown. You know things are happening, but for most of the time, you don't see what is causing that. And so that kinda just builds up that fear because it's like, "Oh my god, this, and this are happening, but, like, I don't see what's doing it, but you know there's something there." And so, it's like our basic human instinct to try to avoid that out of survival, and it's just we gotta kind of the best way, in my opinion, is to learn and to educate yourself, because once you know what's going on, then the unknown becomes known, and that fear kind of gets rid of itself.
I agree. That's exactly what I teach my clients is knowledge is power. But I have had clients, and this is me and Emily can relate, and I'll let her speak for herself. But on that subject, I have had clients, when they call us, email us, whatever they may do, people are under the impression because of television and all these types of things that we can just wave our magic hands or use our psychic powers like wom 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 and just completely get rid of something. And to a degree, it is possible that we can to a degree, but if you're not doing your work, we can really not help you. Like, there's no way that anybody can just make all your problems disappear. It's a society that we live in where it's like, "Okay, take this pill, you're going to feel better." That's not how this works.
Mm-mm.
And we run into a lot of people that have fear of change. They will not like you we've had people send them information, they don't listen to it, they don't take the initiative
Mhm.
to get it done.
Yep. Yep. I have the same problem. Like, I have quite a few clients. It's not even just one, quite a few clients that it's like I give them all the information. I tell them, I literally give them an instruction manual of what they need to do, but they then don't follow through and they don't do it. And then they come back to me, it's not working. It's like, no, it's because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You didn't work on your traumas. You're still fighting with your significant other. Like, you're not taking steps to help yourself. And it's like the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it.
Yes. Yes, and we're not trying to bash people here. We're trying to make it very clear and in layman terms instead of going on and on about what to expect and how this happens. If you want to go back and listen to the full episode 23 of season 1, you really should. But we really wanted to get to the grit here and say, people have the fear to cleanse their place because they're scared to use sage because they've heard that it's bad. If that doesn't work for you, we're going to go into the list of tools, which is part of the rewind or rerun episode, if you want to call it that you can use. And there's different ways to do it. But like a fear to cleanse, the way I explain this to my clients is imagine that every action you do, if you have intentions behind that has energy. Thoughts and intentions create energy patterns, and it's literally like every time you do something, you're literally laying another brick to build your wall of protection.
Mhm. Exactly.
Best analogy. Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, that's what you have to do. You cannot be fearful to take the steps to help yourself, especially when you have somebody, even if we were to come to your house, you have to still upkeep the work. It doesn't last but for so long. And that's just the physical space.
Mhm.
You have to balance your mind, your body, and your spirit.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about that a little more in one of the later prompts here. But also, we have people with certain belief systems, right?
Mhm. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, your belief system that can have a lot to do with things.
I wanna add too, like, kind of that direction. I have people that are worried about cultural appropriation, and I'm sorry, but that is one of the most frustrating things when you're trying to help someone cleanse and you give them a bunch of things that they can do, and they're like, "Oh, but that's cultural appropriation." First of all, culture is meant to be shared. It's not supposed to be gatekept. The whole point is to learn about one another and improve as a person. And sometimes I find that people just come up with excuses too because they don't want to put in that work.
Yeah, and it has to be done.
Yeah.
Even with the channelings we get, we can sometimes pinpoint part of the issues and the trauma because we see it visually or and we can identify it. Sometimes it goes back to haunted person, haunted place, haunted object. If you're a haunted person, it's because either A, you've experienced trauma, which has put you in a low vibration and you've attracted something, or B, you are a sensitive and you're attracting something, or C, you've brought something in by playing around with the supernatural and messing around with things you don't understand. Then you have people that live in a haunted place. If your place is haunted, let's say you've never had an experience before, most of the time you can run stuff off, but honestly, it's a lot harder when you have a haunted place. If it's like if a bunch of people passed away on the land, it's
Mhm.
almost impossible to not have something happen, especially if you become more sensitive by living in a highly energetic area. You don't even have to be psychic or even a sensitive sometimes if it's a highly energetic area. It's tough. It really is.
Yep. And I feel like a good example is the East Coast with all of
Yeah.
the Native American lands, all of like the graves from wars, whether that's the Civil War or the Revolutionary War. There's so many things.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, you have to take all that into consideration when, you're working with somebody to help you figure these things out.
Mhm.
Belief system, fear. I mean, a lot of people, don't want to, and if you just work with universal energy, you can work with whatever you want to work with to get rid of things like this. You can go as far as getting out your Bible, right? Or you can go as far as practicing a certain type of witchcraft. There's a reason that this works for everybody because it happens all around the world. This is not just happening to people here in America, and it's different. It really is different for everybody based on their spiritual belief system. And sometimes Our belief system can attract certain type of entities that have been born from that belief system,
Uh-huh.
like demons, for example. Everything's definitely not a demon, but I have found by doing paranormal investigations, because I do it for a couple reasons. And one of those reasons that I go is so I can get the field experience, because most of the work that I've done has been remote, right? But I go for the field experience to feel these energies and to see the difference between this type of entity and this type of entity. And I'm going to tell you right now, most of the things I've experienced are very low vibrational because they are closer to earth, honestly. I mean, in a way, like they are a descended, so they're more, what's the word? It's not solid, but more tangible, more physical. Ascended beings, they're in a different space. When you connect with ascended higher vibrational beings, it is literally in a very ascended place and it feels completely different. It's hard to explain in a way.
One I was gonna say one feels more dense where the other one feels more airy.
Yes, absolutely. And the darker or more malevolent entities that I've experienced, they are much more present and physical than other entities and beings that are higher vibrational.
Yep.
Like higher vibrationals, like in the next room, lower vibrationals in the room with you staring at your face, like, that's kind of what I've experienced, honestly. And I mean, we've had, issues with people that are in bad places because they're in bad places. They just aren't willing to do the things they need to do, and it's not that it's our thing. It is a thing.
Yeah.
It's things that actually do work over time. You actually have, you can get rid of stuff and things come back a little bit, and that really puts people in a bad place. They're like, "Oh my god, I thought I was rid of this." You have to actually look and see what was going on at the time, what your thoughts were. You literally have to, like, take measurements and step back and say, "Okay, this came back, and why could it have come back? Did my thoughts start to slip back into a dark place? Did I start using again?" For example, we've had people that have had those types of issues, um, that we've really tried to help. But honestly, if you're in a situation like that, we found you have to help yourself first and sometimes remove yourself from the situation. It's been really, really tough sometimes because people just want to fall back into the same patterns. We've had people that are mentally ill contact us, and that's really hard because, we have to tell them, hey, we do see a little something around, but it's not as bad as you think it is, because everybody has a different perception. So, if anything, I know you may have something you want to add, but to this before we move on, but if anything, if you reach out to anybody for help that you trust and you feel like, they can actually help you, please try your best to follow the guidelines and the advice that they give you, because it's proven to work.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the ones that don't like have a successful time getting rid of something, it's because either they fall back into old habits, B, they don't want to put in the effort, or C, um, it's kind of like they get back into that headspace of where they were originally that brought the stuff back, and then it
Yeah.
comes back.
Yeah, and not being consistent
Yep.
with your tools, because your tools are tools. You're the person that uses these tools that we're going to talk about.
Yep.
I mean, they're tools. They're an extension of yourself, basically. Um, Getting into what it actually takes to become spiritually sound, we've kind of covered it, but it's really important just to break this down. What does it take? It takes work. It takes time too. Like getting spiritually sound and getting your place cleared, it can take time. Yes, I have found out, over time and just learning things, there are people that practice Reiki and stuff that are able to help heal the body. So, like, for me personally, it's something like I've done. It's very similar to the practices I've done where I've healed like places. I can help cross over things and stuff, but I do it through my connection with spirit. It's not really me doing it. I'm only doing 5 to 10% of the work. My spirit team and everybody does the rest to heal the place, but this can actually happen with people. So sometimes, it's best to try to find multiple people that have special, not special abilities. It's not a bad word, but you get what I'm saying. Like that have certain set of skills
Mm,
that can help you.
yeah.
You have to balance the mind, which can take a therapist
Yep.
sometimes. If it's trauma that's triggering your haunting, you have to reach out for help.
Yep. And that's, I feel like, is the biggest thing, is the mindset of people, and wanting to, they have to acknowledge that there's something going on with themselves in terms of mental health, which a lot of people are in denial and or are just embarrassed or afraid to reach out for that help because they're worried that how other people will perceive them or view them. And it's like, you have to be able to live with yourself. Like those people, whether if it's like your significant other, whatever, at the end of the day, if it's just you alone by yourself, you have to live with yourself, not anybody else. And screw what anybody else thinks. It's about you and your health and your safety. And
Yeah.
I feel like getting mental health help is one of the most important things. And like Chas said, you can do that through therapy. Or if you're somebody that's very self reflective, you can do your own meditations and things and figure it out yourself and try to go back in time and try to analyze things that upset you. Um, but if that doesn't work, then yeah, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. You have to get your mental set, and sometimes that can take a while. In the meantime, while you're doing that, if you're having haunting experiences, you have to build up your space. So, in your bodies, that's where Reiki comes in. Reiki's great for stuff like that, for example. You also have to take care of your body, cleanse your body. Your body holds energy. It is basically a big battery. So you have to, like laying around, and when you get depressed, for example, you're going to be lower vibrational. So when you're depressed, I mean, a lot of times, what do you want to do? Absolutely nothing. But you have to take the steps to at least go out and walk to the mailbox to check your mail. It's small steps. It's one foot in front of the other with bodily things, right? It's the same thing with paranormal sometimes. You can make big leaps and bounds with just, I've noticed with my clients sitting down and explaining to them the best way that I can from my human experience with the spiritual world, like the darker stuff particularly, how this stuff works, gives people so much relief. But it comes along with the body parts too, like not literally body parts, but the parts of like, making sure you're cleansed, your body itself. If you cleanse your whole house with sage, your tail better get in the bathtub short that day. Like you need to cleanse your body too, because a lot of times there's energetic threads that you can literally just visualize washing off. It is that easy. It truly is that easy. I've been spiritually attacked before, and I literally visualize the thing or whatever's coming in my mind's eye because, I mean, as crazy as that sounds, that's how people have psychic attacks, right? I visualize white beaming light and I just blast it. Like, and it's just a vision, it's a visualization technique. That's where the meditation comes in. And you just blast it until it doesn't, you can't see it anymore. It truly does work because your mind is so powerful. Keeping your body clean and as healthy as possible during these situations is very recommended. And then the spiritual part of it is keeping your own aura clean. That's part of like your body as well. Have somebody else work on your body. If you need a Reiki healer, it can be expensive, but there's several. If you really do your research and start looking and you set the intention to find somebody, you can find people to send you blessings and Reiki prayers. And you definitely want to vet them. Like if the person that's trying to send you Reiki blessings has a lot of trauma themselves, you know, please reconsider.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they even though they have their best intentions, sometimes you don't want people with a lot of trauma that, if they say, "Yeah, I've da 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 so and so this that," and I'm not in the best of space, but I'll send you Reiki blessings. You can always accept a prayer, but be careful who you have around you that's trying to help you spiritually because they can come with their own set of spiritual things.
Mhm.
So, but it goes back to aura cleansing, which we talk a little bit about in the rewind part of the episode or whatever. Rewind. We're gonna figure it out. But like meditation, using crystals to cleanse your aura. If you do not believe in that, sure, you can do meditations, but really, you can cleanse your aura again by taking a shower. But honestly, if you grab a black tourmaline or a crystal quartz or whatever, and you put that on each one of your chakras, whether you believe or not, you have to believe at least a little bit that it's going to work. And it does work.
Yep.
I have done that. Honestly, I did a full chakra clearing on myself. And a friend of mine offered to do a Reiki blessing or a Reiki clearing on me. And when she went in, I was wide open, every one of my chakras. That was proof enough to me that taking that little black tourmaline stone and I could literally feel it on each chakra. It almost feels like a massage of my chakras when I do it.
Mhm.
And I can tell when it's time to move. It can sometimes be a little painful, but it actually really does work in my personal experience and other people's experiences. I gave one of my ghost hunting buddies, he was having a problem where he had a spider entity latch onto him at St. Albans. I pulled it off, but it left energy threads in him. And he brought something back from St. Albans. And then I saw him at Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary and I gave him a black tourmaline, and that black tourmaline pulled the rest of it off, like right then and there. And he
Ooh,
still uses it till this day.
nice.
So, I mean, mind, body, spirit. Get your spirit cleansed though too, in my personal opinion.
We have to
You
add too, like keeping your energy cleansed, like cleanly. Um, what's the term? It's just cleanly energy practices, like setting boundaries and getting rid of or removing yourself from those that might not have your best intentions or best
Amen.
whatchamacallits.
Yeah, if people don't yeah, setting boundaries and removing people from your life that no longer serve your highest purpose, and that doesn't mean be a prince or a princess and you're not serving my highest purpose, so you gotta go because you ain't providing this for me. No, it's not about that. It's about people that are no longer good for where you've grown to,
Mhm.
like, and the person you've grown into be, like, the people that may not understand you and your mindset now, or people that treat you poorly. But what I was gonna add, one of the most important things to understand is you will not do this by yourself for your spirituality. There is a creator, in my personal opinion. Nobody will ever change my mind on that. There is a person, place, thing, entity, non binary, creator, whatever you want to call it, the God of your understanding, and a team, a massive team of higher vibrational beings that work for you, not as an employee, but because they love and care for you. And developing a relationship with your creator and what that means to you is the most valuable thing that you can have through this whole process.
Yepper doodles.
If you do not have a solid, sound relationship, and sometimes we don't even know what that looks like, but generally it just comes in the form of love and compassion, gratitude, and understanding.
Mhm. Yep. I will say too,
Honestly.
I noticed when I became more, um or I should say more into the gratitude thing, I would receive images or visions faster and more clearly.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like Spirit told me a while back that you hear the word worship a lot in religion. For me, the word worship means gratitude.
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, take that for what it's worth for those that are listening, but that's how I feel. For me, worshiping God, I show gratitude for God or Creator,
Yeah.
and thankfulness for giving me this path. And everybody's path looks different. Somebody's going to be a school teacher, but you can still be spiritual and be a school teacher. You know, you can still be an accountant, for example, and be highly spiritual and have a connection with your creator. We're all going to use it in a different way. You know, this is just the life path that we've been given, but we have to understand that we're all unique and we all have a purpose here, and it's a general purpose that can be used in a multitude of ways. When I do astrology readings, depending on certain factors and aspects, I can look at somebody's chart and say, you are meant to communicate with the community and help the community. You're meant to help your fellow neighbor and man. You have a way with words with people, or you're meant to work in the health industry. You're meant to help people heal. And then you can take your spirituality and use it when there's a time and a place for it.
Yep.
So, I mean, it just depends. Not everybody can be, you can be a psychic or a psychic medium and still have a full time regular job. You know, I mean, a lot of people do that, and that's how it's going to be. Not everybody's going to do the card throwing, and, you know, it's not going to be like that for everybody because we all have a specific role. Some people are natural born healers and they work in the health industry. So, and a lot of times people that work in the health industry I have found have paranormal problems
Uh-huh.
because they work around life and death. They see it all and it cracks their mind open. And once you become aware of things, especially if it spooks you, the spooks become aware of you.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, we're giving it to you raw today. We're not making this pretty. We're just being very
We're
honest.
raw dogging it.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, it's just you've got to understand that it's not just an I situation. It's a our situation, like meaning you have more people in spirit around you than you'll ever realize. And you have to have a belief and you have to have drive and a want and a thirst for knowledge to be able to rid yourself of these types of things.
Yep.
So, I mean, point blank, we explain a lot more stuff in this particular episode. Initiation into the realm of spiritual things. That is the very first part. So I think it's a 4 or 5 part series. It goes straight through psychic abilities, extrasensory perception, psychic abilities, because there is a difference. I found when I started breaking it down, I've run across that, and I'm like, oh yeah, we can do that. And then you also have a divination episode as well, where we talk about that and how to protect yourself and different types of divination. But definitely go. We can put the link to the full episode, you know, somewhere here around here where y'all can listen to the full part of it. But Emily, I think the last thing that we have is just stating the difference between, like, what's the role of tools in
Yeah.
spirituality.
The role the role of tools is to enhance your intention in order to get whatever thing you want done. So the cleansing things are tools. They're just there to facilitate and add to the intention to make it stronger.
Yes. And things like crystals, they have their own energy, their own magnetic field that works with your energy. And a lot of times, tools, the implications that, or whatever you use those tools for, you wield those tools with your intention. So that's why you have like religious figures saying crystals are bad. For one reason, they say it's bad because they're used to do bad things, because people that do bad things can do them with crystals and herbs. You can make dark magic with that kind of stuff and hurt people with it, but you could also do it and change your life or change somebody else's life in a very positive way that honors free will.
Mhm.
There's other reasons that they're, said that because you're not supposed to go to anything but God for help. And I get that perspective. But to me, God is always on your side because he gave us those tools to help us.
Yep.
I
And
reach for God with those tools when I use them.
yeah.
So,
And to me, like using prayer beads is the same for the most part. Other than if they're not made out of crystals, they might not have the properties of the crystals, but they're used in a similar way.
yeah, it's just, I think I said this last week on the episode, but I was listening to that podcast while I was going to bed and they were talking. There was a medium. She was like, the planets are just planets. They don't have any meaning. They don't mean nothing. And she's not far off, but the planets are set in place that have magnetic fields that reach our energy. They have energy just like a crystal does, just like we do. But yes, humans did assign the meanings to these things. And once we assign the intention to something, we shape our reality with it.
Yeah.
And once you understand that one principle, I mean, the one friggin' principle, we shape our reality to a degree. So if everybody's vibration was high, we would ascend into like light beings and float in the air and stuff. We'd be walking on water. I'm just saying. And that's kind of where we're headed in 2025. I mean, really, we're shifting. This is the great divide that Spirit was telling me about. Now I'm hearing people talk about it. Talked about this for a long time, like 3 years ago. Like, there's a big split coming, light and dark. Yeah, it's all splitting apart. People are choosing sides, they're choosing vibrations. You have to ask yourself, which side of that vibration do you want to be on? We're a work in progress always. We're never going to be perfect. We're not expected to be perfect. But what side do you want to be on? I'm just saying.
Mhm.
But yeah, guys, I think now we're going ahead and put in our rewind part of the episode of spiritual protection tools. We're going to talk a little bit about that. You can go ahead and, if you like, listen to the whole episode, or you can just roll with what we got.
Whoop whoop.
Whoopity whoop whoop. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for the new content. We really want to talk it. We're not trying to belittle anybody or make bad of anybody that we've ever talked to. It's not that. We just really needed to revisit
Mhm.
this subject and be just 100% real with you guys.
Yeah.
It's work. It takes time, but it is 100% possible. Do not give up hope.
Yeah, I would say yeah, like you said in the beginning, it can take a day, but I've had clients with severe attachments that it takes like 6 to 10 months to get rid of it because it also has to do with their timeline in their healing journey.
Yep, it is a journey, 100%. So we have now reached part three,
Da-da-da-dong.
which is spiritual protection
Yes.
tools. Okay. So, spiritual protection is something that has been around longer than any of us. It's been around for thousands of years. It's been done in many different ways. You have Eastern, Western, different types of beliefs and practices. And this is kind of a modge podge. So, us Westerners, we have a modge podge of beliefs, things that we've picked up. Also, individually, I can say things I've picked up from different places that does actually work. And it is fair to say at this time, depending on what you're trying to protect yourself against, certain things work better than others. And like sage might work really well for one person, but for somebody else
Mhm.
it don't. And there could be a multitude of scenarios on why it did or did not work. So keep this in mind.
Yes.
Everything we're saying here is fluid to a degree because the paranormal is predictable. once you understand the type of energy that you're working with, it all goes bye bye in the same way for the most part. If it's elemental, it goes bye bye in a different way than a
Mhm.
demon would. It goes bye bye in a different way than a thought
Yeah.
form would. Thought
Yeah.
forms, for example, have to be healed through trauma, like healing trauma, a lot of times. And that's a process. So just keep all that in mind. I don't want to go on a
Mhm.
tangent when we start to talk about spiritual protection tools. So, Emily, would you like to start off our list?
Yes. So, since you brought it up like kind of like as your example, I was going to say healing traumas is a good actual spiritual tool, especially against some thought forms. Not all thought forms, but some thought forms.
Yes, it just depends on the
Correct.
situation. Technically, everybody
Well,
needs to heal
yes.
their trauma because yeah, and trauma is like an open wound. So I'm seeing like spirits showing me somebody with an open wound on their arm, kind of gross actually, and they're
Mhm.
pouring salt in it. Until you close that wound, stuff can come along like salt, get
Yep.
in it and burn. It's like putting hand sanitizer on when you have a cut on your finger. I know, weird analogy. I'm just weird. Okay, I get it. But the point is like, yeah, your trauma and your wounds, you have to be healed, and your spiritual journey will evolve at a more rapid rate through your
Yep.
healing. So fair
That's why
enough.
we
Fair
preach
enough.
it in almost every single episode.
Yeah. So, and I know some people don't agree with that, but when you have trauma, it just provides a doorway, and it goes back to a
Yeah.
perception. Like if you have a perception of, if you got hurt by a man, you have perception of
Yeah.
men, same kind of, in a way, it's different perceptions until you are able to overcome that and trust
Mhm.
somebody again. Then, it can, excuse me,
Yeah.
tits. Hold on. My throat's sore. It's been sore for two
The
days.
issue in my ear went to my throat and it has not fixed itself yet. Mhm.
That's fucked up. Okay. Maybe we'll be able to get through this in the time before the 2 hours is up.
Yeah.
I think we will.
Good.
Yeah, I'm
So
good.
I wanted to
Go ahead.
add too with the whole trauma thing. We always say that things that happen here in the physical always has uh the same effect but in the spiritual. So it's like that's why it's very important to heal the traumas too, because you don't know what it's creating in the spiritual as well as the physical.
Right. Right. Even a spiritual
Mhm.
person, it can still have
Yes.
blinders because it's your trauma. So that's just a good thing to
Mhm.
keep in mind. So at the top of the spiritual protection tool list in our tool bags, yep, we're the Tim the Toolman Taylor now, is divine
Yeah,
help for me
that's like the number
personally.
1.
Yeah. Again, we don't do this by ourselves. This is not something that we're out here, fighting. It's not like out here like Batman
Mhm.
fighting crime. No, we actually have divine help to do what we do and what you do. We have divine help every day. You always ask for divine help through the God of your
Yep.
understanding.
In
That's
your
the best way I can put it.
in
And prayer or,
I was going to say in
I'm
your
sorry.
spiritual team.
Right, exactly. And prayer as well, or intention, however you want to put that, cuz prayers and intentions are
Mhm.
similar, right? So you have to have those two things, in my opinion, to tackle anything. Is that even in ritualistic situations and people that actually practice a certain type of witchcraft, and I'm meaning
Yeah.
positive, that's all still there. It's not just for divine help, and prayer or intention is not just for people that are
Mhm.
religious. It is a spiritual thing as well. And also asking for help from others, that are in the field of spiritual protection, or even just, even if they're not, just having somebody else's opinion that's intuitive, even if you have to hire services or not, it's important to sometimes get a fresh perspective on what's going on.
Yepperdoodles. Sometimes you
Hmm.
need a deliverance or an exorcism, and you have to do that through somebody else.
Yep, it can't always be done just through yourself and others, because sometimes intentions can be
Mhm.
blocked by certain dark and
That's
nasty
for sure.
things.
And then we have holy oil or holy water. Mhm.
Yep. That's very helpful a lot of the times, if you're getting spiritually
Yep.
attacked. Holy oil or holy water is good for that and blessing houses, and places and
Mhm.
stuff
And when
like
I'm
that.
attacked through my
And
health and stuff, I just put it on my chakras and I'm Gucci.
yeah, and sometimes I put it, so yeah, I start at my crown and I'll go down to my root, but sometimes I also will put it on the back of my neck and then like full body protection. I add it on both sides of my shoulders or back of my neck, both sides of my shoulders, both sides of my hips, and both sides of my ankles. And it's like a complete barrier. It has stopped things in its tracks before, and then sometimes it slowed it down. And then also meditation. Meditating will bring you clarity and answers. It's very
Mhm.
important to understand meditation. I will take a moment just to insert that a lot of these things that we're talking about now, we have covered those more in depth in previous episodes. That's why we're not going into
Mhm.
extreme depth here. I just in case you're a brand new listener, you can
Mhm.
always check out our other episodes and they're titled accordingly for the
Yep.
most part.
And with meditation, you can, you know, create and manifest your barrier if you're someone who needs visualization to do that.
Yep. That's how we do some of our that's how we do our
Yeah.
spiritual walkthroughs is through a form of meditation, whether that's laying down, it can be instantaneous, it can be over time. It just depends on the person and the
Mhm.
situation.
Exactly.
Then we have like, yeah. And then we have like medallions and spiritual
Mhm.
items. So like, people use the cross, for example,
Yep.
prime example, but you also have different types of religious or spiritual symbols. You have runes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You can always find your method of a medallion you wear. That's been done forever,
Mhm.
rosary beads, stuff like that.
I was gonna say, like, in a lot of Catholic or Italian families that practice Catholicism, they have, like, the medallions, and I think is it, like, the saints, the Catholic saints, and
Yeah.
yeah, so I know, like, some family members have, like, the Catholic saint medallions and crosses and rosaries and stuff.
Yep. Exactly. And, that can go to any type of
Mhm.
symbol that works with your personal beliefs. But that's a great example. I mean, you see that everywhere.
Mhm.
Some people use the third eye, for example. Some people think the third eye is evil. Some people think it's, wards off evil. There's different perspectives. But that's also an example of an item like a medallion or
Yep.
something like that. Um, a big one is candles. So people do candle work. That's the other type. Generally, just a white candle represents purity, exorcism. It represents just in general like purifying, and it can actually be used as in place of any other colored candle. If you want to get into that type of work, that's something you definitely don't want to just look into one night and give it a shot. Something you need to learn about and learn about the different metaphysical properties of the colors of the ingredients. If you're using herbs or flowers or anything like that, you definitely want to take a look. But if you just want to clear out the energy in your space and you don't have anything, a candle will
Mhm.
do that. Just a simple white tea light candle goes a long way in a room. Now, I wouldn't say it would be good for the whole house, but it will cleanse a space. If you take multiple tea light candles, then you definitely can clear your house out. But it works just the
Yep.
same.
And then you have essential oils and, incense, like things that have like scents.
Yeah, like, so incense is smoke, and different incense, for example, like frankincense and myrrh, they have metaphysical
Mhm.
properties. So everything has its own set of physical properties, but then in the spirit, again, mirrored, there's metaphysical properties. This isn't believed by everyone, but different essential oils and herbs and flowers, like I was saying, they all have different metaphysical properties, which are said to benefit us in the spirit, in a spiritual sense. So you can use
Mhm.
a diffuser for like your essential oils, like lavender is a very protecting scent. and a calming scent, you can actually use that for your space as well. So you put out the positive energy to push out negative energy, yeah, so putting out positive energy in the room with the
Mhm.
candle, with the incense, with, the essential oil, with the
Yep.
sage, for example. It would be a good time to go ahead and just really talk about sage too, just as an example for herb, because you can burn different types of herbs to clear. It's not just about sage. You have mugwort, you have a bunch of other different things that you can do, but sage is the most commonly used one. The one thing about sage is it is said that it rids a space of all energy.
Yes.
It leaves a void. So sage, we use it a lot, but again, there's a lot of other different things that we can use to cleanse our space. It's not just about the sage. And when it comes to herbs, and then you have wood, like
It's Palo
I say Palo
Santo.
Santo.
But, like, with the sage, you gotta make sure you do it right or you're in trouble.
Yeah, and we're gonna go over that at the very end of the podcast one more time. We've already done it this season, but since we're talking about spiritual protection, we're gonna cover that briefly again on how to properly cleanse your space. Because if you don't, then you can actually trap stuff in your space instead of make it flee,
Mhm.
energy wise, energy speaking. And the wood, the Palo Santo wood, it actually is said to add positivity back into the environment. So after you use sage, it's important to burn an incense or something of the such. In my personal opinion, not everybody agrees with that, and that's fine. It's just what I do. Or use the wood stick to be able to
Mhm.
put back positive energy in a space. It's whatever you're trying to do when it
Yeah.
comes to metaphysical stuff. I have a guide that helps me with that. So I've
Mhm.
learned about it, right? But then when it comes to ingredients, I have a guide that helps me choose what I need to use for a specific purpose. It's actually really cool. I enjoy
Mhm.
making
I
stuff
like
like that.
burning the sage and Palo Santo at the same time. Yeah.
Right, right. And there's nothing, yeah, you can do it. Nothing wrong with that. You can do it however you would like to do it. Just as long as it's
Yes.
done in a proper way. That's the only thing you have to watch out for. But then next we have water. So
It's my
Emily, she
favorite.
definitely loves to do her cleansing. Yeah, her cleansing baths. You want to tell people about
Yes.
cleansing
So
baths?
typically, depending on the situation, like if it's a health thing or just a mental thing, it depends on like what I will put in it. And a lot of times like I'll feel that I want to put it in like put in certain ingredients and then I'll just double check it on the internet, make sure it's like good stuff and not something that's gonna do the opposite because you know how negative entities can try to influence our thoughts. But so I always double check that, but yeah, I'll throw in like certain ingredients like special salts, herbs and stuff because water is very cleansing and you can even use ice because ice is a type of crystal and again it's water so it's purifying and then you just put the intention in the water and pretty much soaky.
Yep. Yeah, water is cleansing in general. It could be a bath, it could be, and rivers and streams are really
And
good for clearing out
oceans.
energy of the self. And yep, and objects like crystals and stuff. Some people run like if they have water safe crystals.
Mhm.
Some crystals are not water safe. Water safe crystals, you can cleanse
Mhm.
them
I
in
put
running
some
water.
I was gonna say I put some
I
rose quartz
personally,
in the bath sometimes.
yep, you can do that as well. And just to make you a nice, relaxing bath in a
Mhm.
shower, even just a shower. Have you ever noticed if you're in a shit mood and you just go take a shower, you feel better afterwards
Yeah.
because you're washing away
Yep.
all the negativity,
Or
okay?
if or if you're
And
me and you have to do something impulsive, like dye your hair and cut it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. There's different ways, and that boosts like your
Yeah.
mental illness or self-esteem one. So when you start shaving your fucking head. So
Not in a Britney
sorry,
Spears
I couldn't
kinda way.
resist. No, no, no. Not that way. I mean,
Oh,
if it makes
true.
you feel better though, I mean, great, go for it.
Mhm.
But yeah, so you have different, and just water in general is cleansing. So just being by water, just being at a water source, a natural water source, invokes positivity. It clears out emotions. A lot of people go sit by like the river,
Mhm.
for example, and think.
It's a place to think. It's like fishing, I guess you could say, in a way. When you go fishing,
Mhm.
you sit by the river, you think, you fish, you go home, you feel better. All right. And speaking of water, we have tar water. So, tar water is something that's new to me. I do not know the ingredients. I do want to find some tar water. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I can make some, but it is used in a similar way as holy water, and it can be put around your property to protect
Mhm.
anything from coming in. So, that's another type of tool you can use.
Yep.
And then, of course, crystals. So crystals, they have the same metaphysical properties or similar, obviously, it's the same principle, metaphysical properties as herbs and, flowers and all that kind of stuff. So there's no real difference except it's a rock and that's a flower. They have just different they have different metaphysical properties. So, for example, Emily said rose quartz. So, rose quartz is self love, just loving, positive happiness, just uplifting your mood. It's great for empaths. Rose
Mhm.
quartz is great for
For sure.
empaths. And we talk about using black tourmaline a lot. That's for banishing negativity. I think that's one of the
And
strongest
obsidian.
stones, in my opinion. Yep, obsidian too. Exactly. I've used both. They do have two different types of metaphysical
Mhm.
properties, but they're similar. And I think the energy off of each stone feels different. So I'll use black obsidian a lot of times to clear out my chakras. So if you're ever having any type of like fogginess in your brain, you can put the uh, obsidian on your forehead,
Yeah.
on your third eye, and it'll help clear that up a little bit.
Mhm.
Done that plenty times.
For sure. You
Mhm.
got your salt and you got your ash and you can mix them together. Make black salt.
Yeah. Yep. Salt. A lot of people use salt for different things. Um, so you can put it around your house. I use salt. I don't use salt as barriers. People use them
Mhm.
to make protection circles. If you practice that kind of way or whatever, if that's part of your thing, some people do it like that. Some people put it in the
Yeah.
window. It's even can be used as an experiment in paranormal situations. Like one of my clients was instructed to put out a jar of salt or like a tub of salt to see, and it says that certain types of entities can't resist putting their
Oh,
fingers in it, like as a mockery. Yeah, like demonic. Yeah, that's one way to test for demonic
I did
things,
not
which
know
I
that.
found very interesting because it's like, oh, this don't affect me. So it'll rule stuff out. That's
Like
a
when it
certain
yeets
belief and
across
practice.
across the room.
Um, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, you have different ways you can do that. That's
I was
another
just
thing, though, you
thinking
have to be
that
really
because you don't
careful
want to trap
with.
things in
Yeah.
either.
Yep. You can trap stuff in and whatnot. There's different color salts, there's different types of salts. I
Mhm.
like making black salt, for
I use it
protection
in my
and
candles.
whatnot. And, and last but not least, really, we have one that's really important that probably should have been up at the top. Oops. That's your own
Mhm.
energy, that's your own light, your divine light. A lot of people naturally just
Yep.
radiate light. And if you're one of those people, you'll notice that people tend to treat you like
Mhm.
sometimes. Like a lot of the times. And that it's not anything, it's not like, oh, you're super awesome special. No, it's just the more pure of heart you are, the more your intentions are aligned with positivity, the more light you push out, which darkness in any form does not like light. If somebody's harboring darkness through their own trauma, through an entity, through just their personality, not everybody
Mhm.
is nice and they don't carry that type of light, so they tend to avoid
Yep.
somebody with light. Right? So it's powerful. If you learn how to direct and use that and during meditation, pull it in and get associated and familiarize yourself with using your own energy field and your light, you can deflect things.
So like with the white light, you can manifest barriers and things to push things away and cleanse and purify spaces and yourself.
Yep. Yep. And there is a way to
Mhm.
remote view and do that too, but that is very advanced
Mhm.
and you have to know what you're doing. So this isn't something you're going to be able to do. You can visualize. Visualization is even, I could say, a subcategory.
Mhm.
Visualization is very important. But yeah, vision work is some of the best work to do when protecting yourself. And this is where certain people have certain experiences, like Emily and I. And there's other people that, just people, they don't have to be practicing mediums or anything to have these types of visions and experiences. Again, just, talking about my client that we had the same vision of cutting the black vines away from the house. That's one of those types of examples. So, vision work is really important.
Mhm. It can also build your confidence because when I was starting out, I would do like practice where I would be in a battle simulation and just set up like a training ground with things to practice with like my weapons and things. And it helped me gain enough confidence to where I was confident enough to fight things when I was attacked.
Right, right. And see, I don't have experiences like that personally. I see things, but well, sometimes I do, but it's a little different for me. I use light to clear spaces. I use my light energy to clear spaces. I have punched a couple things in the face type things or
Mhm.
Hulk slammed them in the ground and weird shit. It sounds weird, right? Not everybody's going to be able to do that though, because not everybody works in that type of way energetically. And it's okay if you don't. You don't have to do that to there is it's like it's not like technically a level thing. Like some
Mhm.
people will never be able to achieve a visualization technique as well as others because we're all built
Well,
differently,
there's
and that's
also
okay.
there's people that can't hear their thoughts when they think, and some of them can't visualize stuff like in the same kind of thing, if that makes sense. And I don't know if it's
Right.
like the same people who can't hear their own thoughts can't visualize stuff or if it's like two separate things, but I
I'm
know.
sure it's same and different. I'm sure it's both
Mhm.
ways.
But like for me, doing visualizations for warm-ups are very, very helpful for practice and things,
Yeah,
in addition to
absolutely.
just fighting as well.
Absolutely. And we have, I think, well, technically three more. If you are interested, or if you are practicing any type of alchemy, witchcraft, or stuff like that, and we're speaking in a positive way, there's different ways you can protect yourself with that kind of work as well. I'm not going to go deeply into it, but they use candle work, different types of things, herbs, and just nature in general, which is one of the topics.
Mhm.
But it's just valid to say, like, that is one way people spiritually protect themselves. And plus, again, there's all different types of practices out there. That's not just witchcraft, obviously. You got shamanism, you
Yep.
have tons of different things, different things we don't even know about because we're Westerners,
Mhm.
right? Yep. And then sound healing and frequencies.
Yep. So,
So a lot of, yeah, you go ahead, and I know you got something to say about this one.
yeah, so, like, you can use, like, certain frequencies, like, if you wanna look up a YouTube video, and, some temples have natural frequencies to them, and I can't think of which one I was gonna say, but I know on an episode of Ancient Aliens, there's a temple that actually was created by the civilization that, who built it, created the frequency, 1111 in their temple purposely because it is a healing thing and they wanted it to be a sacred space. And
Yeah.
that is a really good one. And like I said, you can go on YouTube or wherever and find some healing frequencies. You can, go for the Gregorian chants if you want
Yeah.
to.
So those are ancient, like Catholic, based in
Catholicism.
Catholicism. And they pretty much, it's things that I found that people play because I don't have a Catholic background at all. So I didn't know about this until recently. And basically, you can play these sounds, and you can also do it with Christian music. People do it, but these are like ancient songs that you play at a low low volume throughout your house all day, and it's supposed to drive away negativity. Um, Churches and stuff like that, they have like a set, they sometimes create packets and have like a set way of letting you answer questions, and it helps them determine how much spiritual help you need.
Yep.
And some people go that route, and that's okay.
I have a
You know,
client that's doing that right now because
yeah,
I can't drive to her house and do an exorcism because I live further away.
right. And, depending on what it is, not everybody should try to ever perform an exorcism.
Yeah.
Like, that's important to say too. Like, I've been around that personally,
Mhm.
and it is scary. Like,
Mhm.
movies don't do it justice. You we are gave. I'm a firm believer in this, and some people don't believe that. So, people that you know in the Catholic faith, they would never try to do that to somebody else. For example,
Mhm.
even in Christian faiths, they would some denominations would never try to do that themselves. And then other types of Christian faiths, they definitely believe that we are gave the gift of deliverance. Like, we are able to provide that, and in one way, shape, or form. And I resonate with that
Mhm.
personally.
I do too.
I think, yeah, I think that we have the ability to, but it's still something that has to be learned. You
And you
definitely,
have to do it with divine help.
yeah, and it's the light. To me, it's the light within you that's
Mhm.
given to you by divinity
And I'm
itself.
very confident I can do it.
Right. And
Mhm.
then you have with sound healing, because there's one thing is too is drumming. So a lot of people actually cleanse out earth energy lines with drumming.
Yep,
And
I've heard
that's,
of that.
ancient. Yeah, it's ancient, and pretty much the drumming and the rhythm, and like they'll do chants and prayers and different things. That's been done for thousands of years, but people still do that in certain
Mhm.
practices and just energy work in general, to be able to heal people, but not just for people, to heal the earth, calling back energies and stuff of the such. Because if you're in a place, like we're talking about places that are fucky or funky and they have bad energy, a lot of times that's one of the things they'll resort to be able to clear out the energy. And Gaia has the ability to heal herself, right?
Mhm.
So it is definitely part of sound healing and frequencies. And then, of course, you have singing bowls, you have chimes, you have all kinds of things music wise. Music is very much tied into frequency and sound, obviously, because it's music. So
Mhm.
it can, it's fair to say, too, the type of music you listen to. Now, some people would disagree with this, and I used to be one of them, but certain types of music that I used to listen to, I cannot listen to anymore because I hear and feel the darkness from it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you want to even throw in a little science, psychologically it can do things to you. And there's actually studies that have been done on this. And a good example is like certain tempos and certain like the quickness of beats and things, it's like it can affect your mood and your overall state of being. And it's very similar to how like we were talking about the rice experiment and like the water experiment. Like if you shout things at it in a negative way, it reacts differently than when you say positive affirmations to it. And it's very similar with how music works. And like a good example, people who listen to like techno or quick beat music like that tend to drive faster on the road than slower music, and it's been proven.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But I did
Yeah.
it with metal.
Yeah.
I am the
If it's
metal.
aggressive
Yep.
music, they can do that too.
Yep. And different types of music, like she was saying, it creates a pattern. So a lot of times, if it's something pleasant at a pleasant frequency, it creates a beautiful geometrical pattern. And if it does not, then it actually creates like chaos.
Mhm.
It's not anything with beautiful lines and patterns and imagery. It's actually just chaotic. So I've seen some of those images, and it's very fascinating.
I was gonna say, like, I can't listen to rap music. at all. Like,
Right.
especially if they're talking about, like, sex, drugs, like, abuse, I cannot do it.
Right. And
I
that's part of the negativity part.
Mhm,
Yeah, and sound healing is definitely, really important. And I think it's an area for me that I would like to study more. Like, I
mhm,
know I want to study more about sound healing and frequencies. I know we've probably left a few things out, but there's tons of different types of sound healing.
mhm.
And then lastly is nature itself.
Yep,
So nature is healing for everybody, grounding wise. That's why they say take your shoes off and go walk around in the
yep,
grass or
yep.
in the field or whatever. Watch out for snakes. I'm kidding. But like not really. I'm actually not, especially right now. But for real, like you want to be out in nature now. If you're in a place that is not healed, if you're in a sick place, there are places in on the earth that are sick that causes negative energy entities, beings, all kinds of different things,
Mhm.
obviously that's probably not the best place to go healing yourself.
Especially
You want to find a
graveyards.
right. And I find that graveyards are actually fairly peaceful. Honestly, I do. Sometimes I got the heebie jeebies, but for the most part, I feel like honor and respect a lot of times.
Well, I'm talking
And
about,
that's
like, where like, battles and shit where people are just buried there. I don't mean, like, cemeteries.
okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah, yeah, there's 2 different
yeah. Yeah.
things.
2
2
yeah, 2
different
different
things.
scenarios, I got what you mean. Yeah, and I wouldn't recommend going to Gettysburg on the battlefield and taking your shoes off and
Yeah.
soaking it all in. No, we're not gonna do that today.
Mhm.
But you guys get it, it's kinda elementary, but it's fair enough said because some people are really, really, really new to this, so we just wanna cover all bases,
You know what I started doing really before I even knew I had psychic abilities, and I have no idea why I started doing it, and I just started doing it out of the blue. Every time
What's
I
that?
would be driving or in the car, if I would see roadkill on the street, like, I would just envision white light around that, like, dead animal, and or I don't know, I used to, like, do this thing where I would do I don't know, some kinda hand motion. Now I can't think of what the hand motion is.
You talking about when you were a kid?
Like, early 20s.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and just, like, I don't know, I just felt like it needed to be purified.
That's your Aurora connection.
Oh.
I mean, like the Disney character where you were connected with the
Yeah.
land and the trees and the animals and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it's like it was almost like you were, what's the word? Reverence. You're paying, like you're acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Oh,
I used to do,
I know what the hand motion is. I would tap with my fist my left shoulder or, like, heart with my fist. It was weird.
right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've heard of people doing other things, like
Mhm.
paying respect. To me, that's what it seems like. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not you. I mean, that's what I'm assuming. But like paying respects to different things. It's like
Yeah.
seeing, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
Faux show. Well, guys, those are the ways or the things, the tools, the items that you can use to protect yourself. Now, if we went into every single one of these and just, hashed it all out, we tried to cover, the basics. And it's actually a little more than the basics. It's fairly extended, but this episode, we're not going to take a deep dive in each one of these things. We'll probably save that for a later time.
Mhm.
But you can find information
Mhm.
about every single one of these with Daddy Google, or you can always ask us or somebody else. I mean, ask somebody if that's in practicing in
Yeah.
their own spirituality or religion, like wherever you're comfortable, ask questions. There's a lot of people that do this type of work in one way or another. They're always very open to give you an answer
Mhm.
because ultimately we want everybody to feel safe. That's why we do what we do. So, now we are to how to properly cleanse your space and pretty much yourself. So you always when you're cleansing a space, everybody has a different layout and setup, but the main thing to understand is if you're using sage or any other type of herb, you want to crack some windows preferably. If that's not possible, try to at least crack like a door or something. Because some people live in older homes where like the windows have been nailed shut. Any way you can get any type of airflow. Preferably though, you want to crack a few windows. Some people like to crack one in every room, that's cool. But the main thing is you have to start in the backmost part of your house. So let's say you have a two-story house. I always use this as an example because you can cleanse the one-story house the same way and just go out, the front door, or the door that you use as your front door, for example. So don't want to jump ahead. But if you have a two-story house and you go upstairs, and in the very like from the furthest room away from the steps, bathroom, bedroom, whatever room it is, you want to start in that room and you want to work your way out to the entrance of the second floor. When you get downstairs, you want to repeat the process, but you want to get to the furthest point or the furthest room away from your front door or the door that you use the most to go in and out of. For me, I use my back door sometimes more than my front door, or vice versa. And depending on which door I'm using the most in my residence, I will push out the energy there. So you want to work your way from the back to the quote front door and push out. If you have a basement, you can you can choose. I prefer to push everything out the door I use the most to the entrance to the home, and that signifies that my door is closed to you. You're not welcome in my home. So if you have a basement, let's say you have a two-story house and a basement, so you will go downstairs. And even if, let's say, if your basement door is in the hallway back away from the front door, that's fine. Make sure you have something cracked down there. You can cleanse that space down there and then come back upstairs and work your way towards the front door. And I hope that makes sense.
What happens if
Mm.
you have a walkout basement or you just have a door in your basement that leads outside?
Yeah, you can waft it out that door too.
Mhm.
There's nothing, I don't think there personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I've done that
Mhm.
before. You can waft it out that door or you can push it back upstairs and push it out. Everything collectively out. There's you have a little wiggle room, but the
Yeah.
most important thing is to push everything out. You want to get your closets. If you really want to go the extra mile, you can get like an attic space, but a
Mhm.
lot of people don't do that for obvious reasons. Now, that's the action, but while you're in each room, it is important to start again. If you enter the room you want to go to the opposite side, the furthest way from the entry, and start basically drawing the pattern of your walls, windows, and doors. That way, you're taking the sage, for example, and you'll draw around the room and you'll draw out the windows. You seal your windows and doorways, and even if it's a closet door, always take extra time. And of course you do this, we left out probably the most important part. You always have like a prayer, an intention. You always want to like put on your own self defenses. So you don't want to just start cleansing your house
Mhm.
and out of nowhere, like, it's time to cleanse the house, let's do this. No, you have to have some type of spiritual preparation
Yeah.
for this, and there's different ways to do that too.
Mhm.
Like, personally, I like to ground myself center. I like to put on my own spiritual protection. I like to really get in the mood. I have went and cleansed places, and I got in the mood so much, by the time I got there, it had already left. I'm not joking, but it is funny.
Yeah.
Like, I swear I was on the way up there, and I guess because of the work that I do, because I can remotely cleanse certain things from the area, and I'm still working on getting better at that. Like, that's my ultimate goal. I'm talking about remote clearing. This is something more advanced that, I'm still learning about, because it can be dangerous. So we're just now talking about house cleansings, though.
Yeah.
No, like, remote cleansings, but that has happened before.
Mhm.
But yeah, make sure you basically draw out your room and get the smoke good, going. Because sage, you definitely want to bring whatever you're lighting it with you, because sage can go out sometimes, and
Goes out a
you want to
lot.
have something to waft it. You want to have
Mhm.
something to catch the ash, unless you're okay with it falling on your ground. Most people aren't,
Starting
but it
fires.
happens. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it does happen sometimes, so be aware of that if you're
Mhm.
using any type of herb. It can spark off. I've had that happen before. You can have things happen supernaturally while you're doing this. I set off an alarm, a smoke
Oh
detector
my god,
alarm,
I
and
do that so much.
yeah, well, the creepy thing was I wasn't even in that room,
Mhm.
and the door was closed, and the actual smoke alarm was right above me,
Mhm.
and it set it off in another room,
Mhm.
and then after I walked around, it cut off. In the room that I went in, it cut off because it was so ear piercing because it was so loud. It only set off one detector, but the other detectors were working.
Mhm.
It was because you had to it's something it's too fancy for me. It's like you had to open the door
Mhm.
and shut the door for the alarm to turn off.
Oh, because of the
I did
airflow?
No, they're wired that way. From my
Oh.
understanding, yeah, I've never heard of anything like that. I think that's fancy, but that's kinda what happened. It was something fucky.
I
I don't
I
know.
was gonna say, like, when mine trip, I will open and close a door to create, like, wind with it to get it to shut the up.
Hell yeah, you gotta wait, waft stuff.
Yeah.
No, this was different. It was like you had to open and shut the door to make the alarm cut off, and I found that to be very odd and
So, maybe it's,
interesting at
like,
the
to
same time.
check the room and make sure it's okay.
Yeah, pretty much, I assume, something like that. If
Mhm.
anybody knows, let us know in the comments below. That's pretty
Mhm.
cool. Anyways, that's our question we're asking you guys for the week. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so once you start to do this, you clear your space. If you're using sage, reintroduce some positive things, like a
Mhm.
nice white candle. Make sure you take a shower
Mhm.
too. You definitely want to cleanse yourself. Easiest way to do that if you ever cleanse your home is to bathe after.
Yeah.
That is like a common practice that's been done for many, 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 many years. When it comes to cleansing yourself and your home, it can be a lot more complicated than that. Just because you cleanse your home one time doesn't mean everything's going to go away. Sometimes it can. Sometimes you have to cleanse your house on a schedule.
Mhm.
Most of the time, normal situations, you might not have to cleanse your house at all, but it's recommended. You definitely want to do it once a year, being like real. Definitely want to try to do it honestly every 6 months. If you have no problems at all, probably would be better.
Mhm.
Or you can choose a day if
Spring
you've got
cleaning.
yeah, nothing exactly. You can do it however you want it. But if you have problems, depending on the type of problem and the severity of the problem, you will have to cleanse it with different things in different time frames. So there's more to it for sure. And I know we'll probably talk about some of those things when we talk about psychic abilities too.
Mhm.
So just keep that in mind because
I
we
want
a
to
lot some
say, like, when I do my cleansings of my house, I also, because outlining the doors and windows actually has helped me tremendously. And I always, when I do that, I imagine white light sealing each thing along with being sucked out and live from Metapsychics. Actually saw like the tornado sucking things out, and it was really cool to have that validation.
Right, and if you're into visualization and stuff,
Hmm.
that's definitely something you can do.
Yep.
If you are at the yeah, if you're able to do that, you can definitely do that for sure.
And I ask Archangel Michael or Gabriel to just help too in general.
Yep. 'Cause that's what I've done. I wouldn't recommend doing it if you're not advanced in doing stuff like that. I wouldn't recommend doing it if you see any type of entity unless you know what you're doing.
Oh
Doing it
yeah.
and just Yeah, doing it for just, situations as, like, imagining white light and cleansing out the house, that's great, do that, but
Mhm.
if you start to and this I mean at the time, if you start to see an entity in your visions when you're doing this, because some people have visions with their eyes open, because I do
I
a
do
lot of
too.
people do, but I personally do myself. So I can have my eyes open and still be visualizing this stuff and then see something. So if you were to do that, that can happen. And if you're not prepared, you probably shouldn't be cleansing your house anyways if it's something really bad. I'm gonna be 100%. Like you
Mhm.
need help. If you're just getting into this, depending on the person and where they are, that's when I'll suggest they can cleanse their house themselves. But it is an important time to say sometimes, depending on the situation you're in, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, where you're at and what's going on, sometimes you do have to have outside help to do this. So
Mhm.
there's a good warning for that as
Especially with
well.
sage, because that can piss off a lot of things.
It can, yeah, and there's other ways to get rid of certain things. Like,
Mhm.
in the Fey realm, it's like iron,
Oh, yeah, the
you know.
horseshoes and the nails.
Uh-huh. Yep. And you have those are other types of objects. I actually meant to mention that, like, as when it comes to like medallions and certain like Appalachian folk magic traditions, you people would take and put nails in a jar in a mason jar by their door
Mhm.
to prevent. And then the corn cobs above the door, certain things like the corn cobs, the dried corn cobs are protective, they say. The horseshoes and stuff of the such. A lot of folklore involved in that kind of stuff too, which I know there's tons out there. We could never talk about all of them
Yeah.
in one episode. Trust me, it would have to be, you know what I mean? It'd have to
Yeah.
be just a series. You could talk about that kind of stuff, honestly, in a series.
All right, so now cleansing yourself. So you can't just cleanse your space, you got to cleanse yourself. And sometimes it isn't even the space that's haunted, it could be the person. And so it's really important to do, some things to help cleanse yourself. And so we already spoke about deliverances and exorcisms in like really bad situations and using water and baths and stuff, but you can also, like, you sage your house and use Palo Santo in your house. You can do it with yourself, and pretty much you start at the top of your head or above your head and then work your way down. And I do it like in a crossway because of your shoulders and stuff. And it's more
Yeah.
that than just like a religious thing, even, you know what I mean. But
Yeah. I do the same as well with different things, depending on what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
yeah, because
for
like
sure.
with the holy oil, because you can use that too, it's like you want to make sure you don't miss anything because things like to get in the nooks and crannies. But then, we always talk about Reiki, and we already spoke about Reiki in a previous episode. So you can always go back and listen to that. But you can use Reiki as a way to energetically cleanse yourself. And along the same lines, you can also use crystals, so you can just use crystals or use crystals in addition to Reiki and use them or use them as a tool in your Reiki practice. And
Yep.
if you can't do it yourself, you can always go to someone that specializes in it.
Yep.
hmm And
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think what else.
So I use this. I make essential oils.
Oh yeah.
I make essential oils for different types of things, and I use those for protection. I use them for enlightenment. I guess you could say like opening my intuition. But
hmm
since we're talking about spiritual protection, yes. So you can have items like that for personal use, like roller balls. So
Yes.
I use that, and then also like mist sprays and stuff, like herbal mist sprays. You can spray on yourself as long as they're safe. Of course, you don't want to just randomly buy something and spray
You
yourself with
can
it. That's for the
use
room.
the sage spray with energy mindfulness.
Yep, you can use you could if you wanted to, but
Yeah.
it is kinda loud. But, yeah, there's certain, like, body mists that you can buy. There's soaps you can
Yep, I've
use with
used
herbs in
those.
them and bath salts and stuff.
Lotions. Yeah.
I know we've talked about some of them, but to cleanse yourself, this is just part of it.
Mhm.
And you can use all that type of stuff as well.
And like you do with your space, you can use the white light and divine guidance through your spirit guides and or other benevolent beings. And what's interesting too, sometimes if my body goes a long time without being cleansed, I have this spiritual team of females that literally all wear the same thing. It's like they wear the navy blue like dress. It's like a long skirt thing, and their hair is always in a nice, perfect bun. And I'm laying there, and they're literally sucking out the negative energy that's sitting in my body.
That's interesting, and that's probably very helpful
Mm-hmm.
considering the stuff you pick up for sure.
Yep. So there are so
Yeah.
many ways. So when it comes to cleansing yourself, you can also use pretty much everything we said like in the tools, but yoga you can use in combination with other tools. Nature you can use like you said with like putting your bare feet on the ground to uh get out all the negative stuff. And usually that's what helps me with the negative energy is I'll just go outside and visualize it coming out my feet and into the ground and I feel better.
Yeah, and that's mixed with like meditation.
Yep.
So, yeah, so that's, I mean, everything can coincide with each other. It's not, they can be used on an individual basis or a separate basis. Cause like I use candles with herbs and flowers and oils and wood and salt
Crystals.
and ash. Yeah. And crystals. I use,
Mhm.
so those are like the little candles that I make. So, I mean, it all can be used together. And when you find your methods that work, is the best,
Mhm.
honestly. And so that pretty much covers the basics for your house clearing and yourself and the way to do it properly. Again, before you do anything like that, do your research, find out what's going to work for you. But once you start to do this and you're having any type of problems with energy entity, this is specifically really for entities and beings and things that you just don't want around anymore. I've noticed this, and this is something that spirit kind of gave to me. It's something I've learned over time. Is that they start to back away slowly but surely. When you
Mhm.
have an entity on you and in your energy field or interacting with you, I can use my client for an example. That's what happened with her. This thing was literally on her, hurting her chest, and like messing and manipulating with her energy, very close and personal, touching her and all that. Throughout working with her, this specific entity, and I mean, I had the knowledge to tell her this from past experiences. This is recent. I informed her, I said, the more we push this out, the further and further away it gets. I I can understand how this happens, like I understand why, but I can't really give you any more details than that. But whatever type of practices you're using, it pushes these things further and further back. And over a course of a few weeks, this thing got further and further away. The next time that she actually caught evidence, this is a validation for what I'm trying to explain, is kind of what I'm getting at. It was at the window. The next time she recorded evidence, it was at the tree. So this thing was getting progressively pushed further and further back from her. Is this every situation? No, nay, nay, it's not. Sometimes things are poof gone good, but if you're dealing with something that's very intertwined in you or your place, this is how I've personally seen it happen. Sometimes you have divine guidance and, benevolent divine beings come in and pull them straight out and they're gone, or you cross things over, or you kick their ass out into another dimension, whatever the hell you're doing. Pretty much.
Mhm.
Sometimes, though, you have things like this back off. And I mean, we've talked about it, but I don't know if we've ever really talked about it to that degree.
Mm-mm.
And I personally haven't heard anybody else talk about it. I don't know if you've heard, besides, like, I know you've heard it from me, but I don't know if that's something that's commonly known.
I don't think it
Is-
is because I don't think I've ever heard it before you.
Right. So this is just, I'm just saying it might not be something everybody has heard. This is just something that I share from the experience of, just dealing with this type of stuff. I know one time I was talking to a girl about her situation. And as we were talking, I felt something about 50 yards. I know it was kind of far, maybe not 50, let's say 35 yards away from us, standing there watching. And it was something that was associated with her, but it was not allowed to get any closer. But it did. It eventually got closer, and it was like we almost called it. So talking about it can call it back too. We've had that experience a couple times,
Mhm.
like when you give it energy, depending on where you are. So none of this is 100%. And I think it's like an important time to say that if you're a person having these issues, Sometimes they can go away really fast, and sometimes it takes a long time.
Mhm.
Um, and the whole backing off process, quote unquote, takes time.
Mhm.
And that's just from my
And
experience.
I think depending on the entity depends on everything too, because not everything is going to back off the same way, like you said.
Yeah.
Some might take way longer, and some might just be, okay, bye.
Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to understand that when you're reaching out for help. It's not a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, depending on what it sometimes it is though. But it depends on the person. If you open up the doors to let the stuff right back in, then
Mm-hmm.
you're bringing it to yourself, and that
And
is very possible too.
I notice too, sometimes it takes multiple sessions of cleansings to get rid of things. And just through experience of watching other people try to help other people. And if you notice, sometimes their clients will keep coming back because the problem isn't fixed because they only did one cleansing, or they didn't tackle the source of the problem, which a lot of times, like we always say, could be the trauma aspect.
Right. Even in exorcisms,
Mhm.
like they take time. Sometimes it doesn't just go one time and everything. Sometimes it does, but not all the time. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of factors there. So do not get discouraged if you
Mhm.
are having, continual issues. It does get better over time, and knowledge is power.
Yep.
So ultimately, when you take all these things together, you know, it is how you spiritually protect yourself. Some people just do it with prayer and they're okay with that. And some people prefer other ways. Some people won't go as far as making a herbal candle, and that's
Mhm.
fine. All of these work in their own special way, and all of these can stand alone and help, or they can be merged together and help as well.
Yep.
So I hope that we were able to answer some questions and give some insight about spiritual protection today.
Mhm.
And I'm sure we'll be talking a little more about it again throughout the series because it's going to come up probably at some point when we're
Yeah.
talking about psychic abilities here in the next couple weeks.
And we're always learning too. We could, find entities or discover entities that we didn't even know existed. And then that's like a whole new bag of worms. And then they're going to have their own way of being cleansed and so on and so forth. So it's like you're going to be learning with us as we keep going on this journey.
Right. And it's different. It's different for everybody. Every situation's different, but I can say most of the time, if it's a particular type of entity, you can at least identify it by
Yes.
its traits. They are predictable. So that is the good news.
Mhm.
That is the good news. They are predictable, and we have divine help. That is even better news.
Yep.
You just have to ask for it.
Mhm.
So, because again, this sounds all like we're doing it. Nay, nay, nay,
Mm-mm.
nay, nay. So, again, the most important thing about spiritual protection is belief,
Yep.
intention, and discernment. Those are the
Mhm.
three things that I can say that you have to strive for. I'm not even gonna say completely fully possess those things. I'm saying like you have to strive for it, ask for it, and overall want things to be different.
Yep.
Because if you do not want it to happen, you are therefore willing it away.
And I don't know if we like said this yet, but like when cleansing anything, whether it's you and or your space, you have to say out loud or in your mind that you want it gone, because through the law of free will, nothing's going to happen if you don't say what your intentions are.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Remember, you can write it down,
Mhm.
which is really good for some people. It works really well. Speak it out loud, like she said, or you can use your thoughts. I would
Yep.
recommend mostly either writing it down or speaking it aloud,
Yep.
unless you're practicing mediumship or you're a psychic. Even psychics and intuitives could do that. I wouldn't recommend doing it in your thoughts unless you
Mhm.
know what you're doing fully.
Yeah, I like to do a mixture. I like to write it though with because it brings out more of the intention and makes it stronger.
Yeah, personally, I write most of my stuff, and I'll say it if I'm cleansing a house, or I'll think. I mean, I do all three too, but
Mhm.
for most of my methods, I write my intentions down and what I need to happen,
Mhm.
basically. But yep, that pretty much sums it up. If you guys have any questions, you can always message us with questions about spiritual protection. If you have any questions,
Mhm.
if you need help, we do take that questions about that on an as needed basis. So we help the clients that are having the biggest problems first. You can reach out to me and Emily together, me and Emily separate,
Mhm.
however you want to do it. And we'll do our best because we sometimes it takes a lot to do just one case, guys. So if you have any
Yep.
questions, just be patient with us if we can't get right back to you.
Mhm.
Hmm. Well, I think that's a wrap, guys.
Yipperdoodles.
Hello, everyone. I have a special announcement to make. Coming early in 2025, I am releasing my new Manifesting with the Moon prompt journal. You will be able to work with the lunar energy to help you manifest your goals. It includes how to manifest all 8 lunar phases, builds intuition with guided prompts, plus more. It has 120 plus pages. Here are some examples of what you will see in the book that I created to help you on your journey through manifestation. It is 8.5 by 11 inches with space to doodle and practice card readings. Plus, it pairs with my Manifesting with the Moon class. It stands alone, or you can do both. It's totally up to you. It will be available on Amazon very soon, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for checking it out, and I look forward to launching this project for you guys in 2025.
Did you know that over 45% of people report experiencing paranormal activity in their lives? The unexplained is closer than you think. Yet, many turn to risky methods that can attract unpredictable energies, leading to unsettling experiences. Introducing the Spiritual Defenses, the Haunted Oracle deck, a safer alternative for those eager to explore the spiritual realms. If you are interested in supporting this project, click the Indiegogo link in the description box below. From there, you will be able to learn more about this project, donate, pre-order your own deck, and share out the link. Whichever you decide, thank you for taking the time to check things out.
Thank you to all that took the time to listen to this week's episode. Your support means the world to us. And remember, all of us have the ability to shine brightly and shed positivity even in the darkest of places. Stay safe, stay well, and light it up!